Hey everybody. So after 6 weeks of putting it off, going to pick out an urn for my father who passed away about 6 weeks ago, the kids and I hopped in the car and went and did it today. And it was such an interesting experience, kind of an alternate reality that feels relative to our time, which is why I'm posting this odd note here. First of all, it wasn't sad because I've shifted to another plane around my dad's passing, and of course there's still grief moments. I'm no fool to think that grief is one and done, but I've moved to a different plane around it, thank goodness. And it was just more surreal than it was sad. And some of you have been in this experience where they take you to a room and there's all a display of all the urns. I didn't do this with my mother. Somebody else, I think my sister did it with my mother. All the display of all the urns, and then they've got the jewelry with the necklace and the ring and the bracelet where you could actually wear the ashes of your loved one. You can put them in a big urn, a medium urn, a small urn, as you probably know. You can put it on a pedestal. You can, basically there's some urns that actually look like a MAGA hat. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, but you know, my father was 92 and he would have liked a MAGA hat kind of urn. He was an Air Force guy. He could get an Air Force medallion on his urn. And we walked out of there just dizzy, and I was exhausted. And it just got me thinking, like, wow, the way we treat passing and death and the end of this life is so curious. Some of you around the world will be listening to this, and I'd love to hear how your culture deals with death, because I don't think Western culture knows how to deal with it very well. And I just found it fascinating. I don't really have a message except that it's so relative to today and COVID and fear and masks and sanitizing, and all because we're afraid of death. And I'm personally not afraid of my own death for myself, but I of course have minor children and I wouldn't want to leave them behind. So we all have some level of fear. And why? Why do we have a level of fear? And so what if we just came to terms with death, with transition, with passing? The spiritual types, and I believe this, say there is no death, there's just transitions. And so whether we put my dad in a ring, a necklace, a big old urn, or scatter his ashes at sea, which I guess you're not supposed to do, that's just for us. The spirit is everlasting. The spirit is eternal, and all of that stuff is just for us to feel better. Well, how about if we just started to feel better without all of that gussying up, without all of that extraneous expense and materialism? Now, at the end of the day, I think my daughter will get a ring. My son will probably get some little tiny medallion. My siblings will get this, that, and the other. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just had a very conscious awakening as we were sitting there doing it, and found myself getting exhausted. So I'd love to hear your stories of what you think about it, or how you've handled the passing of life, especially in the age of COVID when there's so much fear around it. So thanks for listening for now. I'll be back later. Ciao.